So I would recommend you follow his directives. Following on to your opening statement, I think everyone agrees that we have a really serious deficit problem in the United States, and you've identified that as one of your big issues. But it appears that I think we can also agree that nothing seems to be getting done to address it. What specifically, sir, if you were elected president, what 3 steps would you take to get our debt under control?
Well, the deficit is it's $15 trillion right now. But at this point, what my philosophy is we can't have contraction in the economy. If you cut government spending right now during a recession, you're just going to heighten the recession and make it worse. Right now, we don't have to fear inflation from a stimulus. I've proposed a $1 trillion stimulus through an alternative Federal Reserve. And I don't think it'll it won't create inflation because the money will go directly to community banks, it'll go to small businesses, and it'll go to credit-worthy individuals. That's the way we need to handle this. We need to get people back at work, and we can't do that by contracting the economy. If you contract the economy during a recession, you're just going to compound the recessionary impact. And with an alternative Federal Reserve that lends money directly to these local people, these local entities, we can get America back to work. We can't do it through an austerity program, which the party duopoly, the Democrats and Republicans, have promoted. It's wrong, and it's just counterintuitive.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. The next question for Dr. Green is going to come from Beth Lamontagne Hall from the Union Leader. Beth?
Dr. Green, you talk about thorium as being a solution for the nation's energy problems. Can you tell me, how do you get thorium, and what impact does getting it have on the environment?
You get it by mining, of course, but it just so happens that it's a byproduct of uranium mining. So you can start by just mining the tailings of already sunk mines. That's one way. You could also try the coal ash pits is another way. It's so abundant, it's actually in your garden. We have large concentrations of it in the West.
And can you, and just to follow up, how do you use this to get energy?
Okay. Thorium naturally is not radioactive. So you have to put it into a reactor where you bombard it with neutrons, and that's when you start to release the energy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Green. The next question is for Mr. Terry, and it comes from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Thank you. Mr. Terry, I have a 2-part question for you. One, do you believe in states' rights? And the second part of that question is, New Hampshire is one of the 6 states that has recognized gay marriage. Do you believe that states' rights should control on this issue, or do you believe that there should be a national law mandating what each state should do with regard to this particular private right that New Hampshire citizens enjoy?
The founders gave us the 10th Amendment to keep the federal government from micromanaging the vast majority of details that would affect us as a country. However, they could never have conceived of a moment in which we would become so debauched that we would elevate homosexual marriage or civil unions to the level of marriage, which has been with us since the dawn of time. Take it out of this debate and put it into child killing by abortion or slavery. Did the states have a right to have laws that protected slaveholders? The answer is no. There's some things that are fundamentally evil, like slavery, and there is no state right to own another human being. There is no state right to kill your offspring, and there is no state right to have homosexual marriage. Absolutely, it's a deal breaker for us as a country.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. The next question is for Mr. Cowan, and it comes from you, Beth.
Hi, Mr. Cowan. The government has, or in the political debate during this presidential election, there's been a lot of discussion about wealth disparity and about the wealthier having more money and the lower and middle class is shrinking. Can you tell me what you would do as president to reduce that wealth disparity?
Yes.
Yes, I think we need to alter the tax rates so that it goes after some of the money at the top and certainly lightens the load of the middle class and the lower classes. I've had some experience working graveyard shift on the minimum wage or near it, and you can't begin to live on what poor people are making. There's tremendous disparity, and it needs to change, and it's certainly not Christian. Thank you.
The next question is for, I'm sorry, Mr. Hayward, and that's coming from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Welcome, Mr. Haywood. I saw a recent full-page ad that your campaign took out in the Concord Monitor newspaper, and in that ad you criticized President Obama for his unwarranted, in your opinion, extension of the Bush tax cuts, and stating that that President Obama was a weak and unprincipled leader, and calling for him to step aside so that you could be elected president and end the Great Recession. Could you elaborate on how you would do that?
Essentially going back to the Johnson-Kennedy tax plan. That was, as I said before, fair. Excuse me. You just got to redistribute the weight, the income. Thank you.
Let's go to, Mr. Hayward, if you'd like to, why don't you take a drink, and I'll come back, because frankly, you weren't armed with water there, and you weren't quite ready, so hydrate a bit, and we'll come back to you. Is that all right? All right. Let's move on then. I'm going to come back. The next question will be for Mr. O'Donnell from Beth Lamontagne Hall.
In your opening statement, you said there should be no guns. Are you saying that all guns in the United States should be made illegal and that no one should be allowed to have a handgun?
Including for hunting. In England, Holland, Japan, Australia, no one has a gun. 20 or 30 gun murders all of last year. We had 30,000 with 40,000 woundings. There is no need for guns.
Let me ask a quick question to follow up on that. How many of you folks on the stage tonight believe the Second Amendment shouldn't exist and that freedom to bear arms is a bad thing? Anybody else? Mr. O'Donnell, just you?
What's your question?
Guns. Should people have the right to keep and bear arms?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm just checking to see if Mr. O'Donnell had any support on that one. Doesn't sound like it. All right, let's try one more time. Mr. Hayward, how are we feeling? Fully hydrated?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Well, Mr. Shoemaker, I really pretty much have answered that question by setting forth the reasons why I think we should go back to the Kennedy-Johnson tax plan, because it was fair, it ends the hoarding, it grows the middle class, it distributes the money, it provides the income for the government to spend on public works projects. President Obama has proposed replacing a lot of our infrastructure, but he doesn't have the money to do it with. And when I say, I'm talking about bridges, sewer systems, water systems, roads, public works, and that's all on my website, haywoodforpresident.com.
Thank you, Mr. Hayward. Appreciate it. The final question this round goes to Vermin Supreme, and it comes from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Mr. Supreme, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Like some of the other candidates, including former Governor Romney, this is not your, shall we say, first rodeo.
Let us say that.
This is not the first time you have run for president in the
Correct.
New Hampshire primary. President Romney has been accused, and I'm not taking a position one way or the other, of taking different positions on different issues. I'm asking you right now, do you still stand by your pledge made in 2008 to provide a pony for every American?
Yes, I do, sir. Free ponies for all Americans, one of the overlooked issues in America today. My free pony platform is, of course, a jobs creation program. It will create lots and lots of jobs. Once we switch over to a pony-based economy, we'll also lower our dependence on foreign oil. We'll also be able to turn all that pony poop into methane gas and wonderful compost, so we'll be able to up our soil that is being depleted by agrochemicals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the important thing to realize is that it is a federal pony identification program where you will need your pony with you at all times. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Supreme. That's our first round of questions for the candidates, ladies and gentlemen. While our questioners are preparing for the next round, I want to ask this quick question. How many of you on the stage tonight will support, because I've heard some more variations with the Democrats and with the Republicans, how many of you will support President Obama if he is the nominee of your party? It appears he will be. 2 of you, 3 of you. The rest of you going to look for Republicans? What? Undecided. Anybody else?
I'm going to write myself in.
Gonna write
I'm
yourself
the
in?
best
That's
candidate.
That's
So.
a sure way to do it.
I'll be writing in Randall Terry also.
Thank you. You're a good man. The broken clock is right twice a day then, yes.
All right. Looks like we may have found some running mates tonight. Let's begin back again with the second round of questioning, and we will start this time with Beth Lamontagne Hall. Your first question, Beth, will be for Mr. O'Donnell.
Mr. O'Donnell, I understand that charitable giving and contributing to the community is very important to you. What, as president, would you do to help those on the bottom?
Every church, every synagogue, every mosque, every temple, every Quaker meeting, if they coordinated, every homeless person could sleep inside every night with a nice mattress, a nice blanket, food, love, friendliness. So I would coordinate that program. The Gwinnett, Pennsylvania Quaker meeting had 6 homeless people living in their meeting. That can be done nationwide. The greatest thrill in the world is to help a homeless person, a prisoner, turn their life around.
The next question for Mr. Ed Cowan will come from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Good evening, Mr. Cowan. This debate is taking place on a college campus. Because of the loss of equity in many Americans' homes, loss of employment, and the ability of both parents and students to get loans, it is becoming harder and harder for students to attend colleges such as this. There is a serious threat that Pell Grants and other governmental funding will cut even more availability of funds for tuition. If students are our future, and I would ask you if you agree in that, and education will determine the future course of this country, what are your solutions for this serious crisis?
Well, there's no question that university and colleges are expensive, and there's plenty of them in America. That's one of the assets we have. And I would like to see us lower the tuition whenever possible. And we need means of pumping money into education. And one way, I totally agree that we need to absorb the Federal Reserve into the Treasury Department, because it's a collection of banks, basically. And we need for the Federal Reserve to be absorbed into the Treasury Department and have a lot more money available to loan to colleges and for tuition.
Mr. Terry, your next question comes from Beth Lamontagne Hall.
Do you support stronger environmental regulations when it comes to clean air and clean water?
Absolutely not. No.
Would you mind elaborating?
Sure. I'm going to go back to another one and tie it all in. It's getting to the place where I feel like I'm riding on the good ship Lollipop. We talk about raising taxes on the rich, that we need to dump more money into colleges, that we need a progressive income tax. People, we're going broke. This is a debt that will crush our children. It will never be paid back. And this nonsense of taking money from the rich is based on jealousy and greed and covetousness. God only says pay 10% across the board. So these green regulations that people are pushing from the green movement are going to cripple us even further economically. China is welcoming the jobs. China's welcoming the money. You can't even open up a new paper plant in America. Obama is trying to stop this pipeline from coming from Canada. How many jobs must we lose because we're bowing down to snail darters and polar bears?
Thank you, Mr. Terry. Thank you very much. The next question will be directed toward Mr. Green and from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Thank you. Mr. Green, this question was submitted by a student here at Saint Anselm College. As you know, because you live in New England, it gets very cold up here in the winter. And our region is heavily dependent on heating oil. If elected, what would be your position on the proposed drastic cuts to the LIHEAP, Low-Income Heating Assistance Program, that helps poorer people keep their families warm in the winter? Would you support those cuts in order to balance the budget, or would you restore the LIHEAP funding?
I do not support those cuts. I would restore the funding. I think we show an incredible lack of imagination in our fundraising ability. I've identified about $2.4 trillion worth of new revenue that I could generate through 3 separate programs, and they would be barely felt by the populace. I'd go to a royalty system on patents. I would go to tariffs, and I would go to a different way of calculating the AMT on corporate income taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Beth, your next question is for Mr. Supreme.
Mr. Supreme, I wanted to follow up on Ambassador Shoemaker's question
Yes.
regarding the ponies.
Yes.
Is that the only government entitlement program that you support? What other entitlement programs are you for?
Just that one. That's enough. But in the vein of energy production, I'd also like to address my harnessing the awesome power of zombies for energy sources. It's not just to run away from anymore. No, we have giant turbines that we're working on, and we will have lots of zombies, and we'll just sort of dangle brains in front of them, and then they will turn the giant turbines, creating energy to lessen the dependence on foreign oil in America here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, for Mr. Hayward from Ambassador Shoemaker.
Yes, Mr. Haywood, President Obama has been in office for over 3 years now. What has been, and I'd like you to be as specific as you can, what has been his biggest missed opportunity, in your opinion, and what would you have done differently as president? And I would ask you to respond on some issue other than the tax piece that you've already talked about. His biggest missed opportunity, Mr. Haywood.
To lead us into a national health service.
Could you elaborate, please?
Insurance schemes, whether they be Medicaid, Medicare, United Health, Blue Cross, you name it, they are not the answer, they are the problem. We get a so inefficiently run system, we can save 42%. I mean, the British net system runs at 42% what we're paying, and that'll save this country $1 trillion a year. And it's being paid as a regressive tax. I mean, it's not, insurance premium's not technically a government tax, but there's still a tax. You've got to, it's something you have to pay for what you have to have.
Thank you, Mr. Haywood. The final question in this round for Mr. Wolf from UBEF.
Mr. Wolf, as you may or may not be aware, one well-known New Hampshire resident, Granny D, walked across the United States in her elder years to draw awareness to campaign finance reform. Do you feel there is more that needs to be done to rein in the amount of money being spent in national politics?
Well, I think the only thing we could do now, given the Supreme Court decision in January of 2010, I think it was called Citizens United, we're going to have to go ahead and probably get a constitutional amendment which redefines what First Amendment rights are and excludes corporations. That's the only way we can do it under the present law. And I would be in favor of that. You know, it's hard to put a harness on free speech wherever it comes from, but the amount of money that the people, the corporate people, the Fortune 500 people can spend every year, it's now unlimited. They don't have to report it. It can come from any source. I mean, it's just going to have a terrible and deleterious influence on lawmaking, and it's already been seen. I mean, they intimidate people who are progressives. They can intimidate people in swing states because people have to march to that tune. They know if they don't march to the corporate tune, they'll be inundated in money spent by their opponents to just swamp them. So we probably need to go ahead and get a constitutional amendment.
We are short on time for another round, but what we're going to do here is give each of you a 30-second close. Not enough time for another round, but certainly enough time to give each of you a 30-second closing statement. So I'm going to start randomly, and we will begin with Mr. Green. You have 30 seconds for a closing statement, sir.
Thank you. I feel that I bring a totally different perspective due to my background in physics. Physics teaches you to think widely and broadly and deeply. So I would recommend that as one of my qualifications. I think we need to send a message to the politicians that they have to talk seriously about energy. And they're not doing that today. And if they have any discussion that does not include the word thorium, you have not heard a serious energy discussion. And I think that also the national labs have not served President Obama well in this regard.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Mr. Cowan. 30 seconds for a closing statement, sir.
Okay. At the core of the cancer that is destroying America and the world, we find the banks sucking down the vitality of modern civilization with endless usurious interest, and it has to stop. And finally, I would say to conservatives, Jesus Christ was a liberal, not a conservative or a reactionary Roman who loved fat cats, killing machines, and voracious capitalism. Jesus Christ was about love.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wolf, your closing 30-second statement, sir.
I want to say that I want to be the progressive alternative to President Obama. I want to represent the people. I don't think that you all should have austerity. I don't think that you should have to pay for Wall Street's mistakes. Wall Street put a lot of derivatives, a lot of speculative exotic instruments throughout this economy, and it ruined the economy. It caused a meltdown, and now the duopoly, the Democrats and Republicans are trying to impose an agenda of austerity on the people to cut their Social Security benefits, cut the home heating oil you were talking about, cut back on student loans, assistance to the students, the poor. That's wrong. We should tax Wall Street. We should tax corporations more. We need to have a progressive income tax. Taxes right now are the lowest ever since 1928 on the rich, and we need to correct that or we're not going to have a good economy.
Thank you. The next remarks to Mr. Randall Terry. 30 seconds, sir.
Every person in here is made in the image of God. Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration said that our rights come from God. All men are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights: the right to life, the right to liberty, the right to the pursuit of happiness. If we are going to be restored as a nation, we have to return to the founding vision of the source of ethics, the source of policy. If we're going to become a nation of thieves and a nation of people who kill their children and who put forth every perversion and wickedness and say, this is good, then we will go the way of the Greeks and of the Romans and of the other empires that have perished before us. But if we're going to be restored, we must return to life and liberty and justice under our Creator. Go to terryforpresident.com to learn more. Thank you, sir.
Next closing statement, Mr. Haywood.
Well, I'll address what I really did not get to in my opening statement, and that is that the continuing vetoes of proposed United Nations action against Israel are not the answer. Those vetoes are, in fact, the problem itself. Had our country not embraced an ism called Zionism, there would have been no 9/11, Iraq War, Afghanistan War. My proposal is that we stop vetoing action by the United Nations and let the United Nations do what it's supposed to do and free the Palestinian people.
Thank you, Mr. Haywood. Thank you. Mr. Supreme, your 30-second closing statement, please.
My name is Vermin, my name is Vermin, Vermin Supreme. My name is Vermin, my name is Vermin, my name is Vermin, Vermin, Vermin Supreme. And you can vote, and you can vote, and you can vote for me for president if you want to. And my name is Vermin. And, okay, thanks very much for coming out today. Oh, one more thing. Jesus told me to make Randall Terry gay with magic sprinkled up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supreme. Thank you. All right.
He's turning gay.
All right. Okay. Mr. O'Donnell, please take us out of this with 30 seconds of your final thoughts.
Jesus Christ did one thing. He helped people. An Afghan poet said, "God has lit the fire of love in my heart." Go to McDonald's, Newcastle, Delaware, Route 9, meet two street preachers, Gary and Larry Dickinson. They do that every day.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Let's have a hand for all our candidates, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Democratic lesser-known candidates debate.
Yeah, thank you. So did you. I don't understand why it was 45.